everybody. Welcome back to the Dog Classroom podcast. We are at session 6, episode 6. So what we've decided to chit chat about today is a lot of these topics and so forth come from suggestions in classes or something that we find we work a lot on in consults. So we are going to talk about why we choose the different exercises that we do to teach clients, and also actually in consults and everyday life. Yeah, and for our own dogs for sure. So to get started, we're gonna talk about handling. I think a lot of times when I say handling, people are just like,
yes, like gently touching.
Just gently touching. As I would say, to me, there's way more to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, way more to it. A lot of times in puppy school, we definitely work on handling because there's a huge mouthing concern, which is natural, which, again, we probably should.
We'll do a puppy episode.
Yeah, we'll do a puppy episode. But we're definitely teaching the handling in classes. This is something that I try to encourage people and say it's preventative if you aren't having issues.
Absolutely.
And it's something that should be long term. So even B right here needs to be groomed on a regular basis. You never know when your dog's going to have an ear infection. Mm-hmm. You never know. Nails is also huge.
Yeah. I always tell my classes, no matter what breed your dog, no matter what length their hair is, no matter how often they need a bath or whatever, all of them need their nails trimmed.
Yes.
There's never a time where you're going to say, my dog does not need their nails trimmed.
Yeah. So even if you're the person that brings them to the groomer, the vet clinic, that sort of thing, it's huge for your dog for you to continue to practice touching and handling the feet. So it's not so stressful when you go and all of a sudden these strangers want to touch their feet.
Yeah. And the other thing too is when they're puppies, usually people go, oh, they love this. They're fine with it. It's amazing. And they'll like flip over the puppy and they'll be all, cute and floppy. But that's very different than when you try to, trim the nails of a 2-year-old dog that's never had their nails done.
Yes.
Or that's always been, a puppy being manhandled because you could when they were that size.
You could and you did.
Yes.
But then you think they're okay with it. So then you stop.
Yeah. And I think that happens to a lot of people is, oh, they're fine with it. I don't need to work on that. That's why I keep putting it in. Like even in the next tab, I'm like, okay, we're going to take 5 minutes, not
and handle the feet.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to handle feet. We're going to handle ears. We're going to look at their teeth. If you have a small dog and you need to brush their teeth.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different pieces of handling that I think a lot of people either assume that their dog is okay with because they will tolerate it. Or because their dog is maybe of a size that they can just do it.
Yes.
Right? And they don't take the time to actually train the handling pieces and go, okay, how can I get you to, be in this with me? So when I'm doing nails, for example, because that's really all the grooming that my dogs need, is they have the choice. Like you talked about, I think you did a newspaper or a newsletter about the bucket game where they have the treats out in front.
Yes.
And so that
was Kelsey. Yeah. That was a newsletter.
Yeah. That's how I do basically their grooming is the food is there. It's available. If you want to engage, then you can, I'll do a few nails, then you can do a little circle around the room and get a treat and come back and then we'll keep doing it. So they're part of it. There's also like, you can go way deeper into like, there's all cooperative care handling where the dog will, give you their paw, they'll give you their head so you can do their ears. So there's lots and lots of pieces that you can do to make your dog feel more comfortable with handling. Yeah. And I think that's something that we as trainers would spend a lot more time on than maybe just the average client.
Yeah. For sure. And then think about it this way. We're not asking you to add minutes in your day. You're already petting and loving them. What's to it? Clean some eye goobies, check out their teeth, flip their ears over.
Yeah.
Gently hold their feet, manipulate the toes. Like that can just be part of every day. And I say the more you practice it, then it becomes habit.
Yeah. And also just for making sure that your pet is healthy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always feeling when I'm petting them, I'm always going in there and feeling if they have any new lumps or any bumps and sending pictures of them.
Yes, that's true.
But things like that. And also, maybe they broke a nail or there's maybe something that you might have missed if you had not been actively looking for it. So I always encourage clients to check their dogs over and make sure that they know, like maybe they've gained or lost weight, or maybe, something has changed that's important.
Because, I would say dogs usually won't tell you or act like something's wrong until it's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Because they're very stoic.
Yeah.
The majority of them. Looking at Nuggie. Yeah, the majority of them. But so definitely that's something, and that's why we do it, is we want it to become habit.
Yes.
For the owners, because like I said, you never know when they get an ear infection. You never know if they're going to cut their foot. You got to change a bandage. So what we're doing is think of it as prevention.
Yeah. And I think also when we think of, when we're talking about what episodes to do and what things we want to talk about, we talked about the 5 things that we as trainers like to teach our dogs.
Right.
So you'll notice by the end of this, none of them are sit, down, stay.
That's
right.
Yeah.
They are things that are going to be useful for a dog that does things with you, that, participates in life with you, because we like to do things with our dogs. And I think most people do. So these are things that are going to make our lives together easier.
Yeah. And I think it's about, when you're in classes, don't think about just learning the exercise and doing the exercise in class. Think about how you evolve it to be part of your lifestyle, how your household. And sometimes we have to help people out with that and say, if your dog's barking at the window, hence our next topic is recall. Can we, or why wouldn't we use recall in the house? A lot of people, when we say recall, picture being off leash hiking in the bush.
Yes.
There's way more to it than that, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you jump in on that one?
So number 1 is handling. Number 2 is recall. Recall, we talk about all the time in classes, and we talk about in working with our own dogs. I was even just working on it today in the bush with these 2, because we've started to think that partridges are really fun.
Yeah.
And then, there's also other gross things that we can find in the bush that we really are working on recall away from. So in order to get there, there's so many other pieces. So can they recall in the house? Can they recall, like you said, away from the window? The window is very distracting.
Yeah.
Can they recall on leash and off leash?
Yep.
Can they recall, when there's things in the environment like a partridge or like another dog or whatever? Those are all things that I consider before I'm ever going to let my dogs off leash anyway.
Right.
And then when I'm doing it here, or when I'm at a point where I feel like, okay, we're ready to work on some recall, it's also a lot about the relationship leading up to that.
Yes, because a lot of people think of it as, just when you were talking, it popped into my head is, we'll have clients say, oh, other classes, or we need to work attention. Technically, recall is attention, right? Because you're asking for your dog's attention at a particular time. Or the question is, can your dog give you attention at a particular time? So it's steps. And I really try to talk to people about steps where you have the on-leash component, where you're building the relationship, right? So when you first moved out here, well, they were used to walking at my place, but you started on leashes or long lines.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because it's a new environment. So what you're doing is you're setting them up for success, right? And then what you possibly do is then having them drop that long line. It scares me when people, decide to go out to the different parks, take the leash off, and hope the dog comes back. Like that just scares me.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely steps in between, and they work when you have that relationship with your dog out in the environment. And I have to say, depending upon your lifestyle, right? Let's back up a little bit. So, I say to people, do you walk your dog on leash or off leash, or do you do both? I think you've always done, especially with these guys, well, especially with Nuggie, raise it out there and living semi-rural. it's part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I need them to do it. Where I find different people in town and stuff, are happy with the dog being on leash on a long line and don't necessarily want them off leash. That does not mean that recall doesn't benefit you.
Yeah.
Because it's just different because then you're recalling on a leash. I would rather you recall your dog turn and look at you, give attention, than tug them.
Yes, exactly. So recall doesn't have to be come to me from 30 feet away.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be come to me from the window that you're barking at, come to me from,
the end of the leash,
the thing that you're sniffing that I don't want you to have. It can be so many different things. And I think that is a big piece of why our dogs are able to do so many things with us, because we have the focus from them, and we have built the relationships that we're on their radar. We're, in the back of their mind, at least, even if they're doing something else.
Yeah.
So I think all that comes with recall training. And then also on the flip side, recall training comes from all of those pieces.
Yes.
So
yeah,
that one I think is really important for us being semi-rural, and also I think should be more important for clients who live in town and who are only on leash. I think they should still work recall. And I think it's one of the things that even when I did live in town was still one of my top 5.
Yeah.
That I would be training.
And then, we get the clients that the dog gets out the front door.
Yes.
And runs.
Yeah.
Super scary. Why not the best place, I would say, for the majority of people in the city, even myself, like, I joke a little bit, everybody out in the training space, but there's a lot of traffic. I have worked recall in the front yard because I would say that's the hardest. It's the most distraction. So, don't only think about it. Again, we're repeating it over and over again about recall is just, calling in the bush from a distance. For a lot of you guys, recall's in the front yard.
Yeah.
You have company come in, the dog gets out, boom, you call the dog back in, no big deal because you've practiced it.
The backyard is another one.
Yes.
People say the dog won't come in.
Yes. And then everybody's chasing everybody.
Yeah. I have had, in the city, I had my fenced yard, and I've definitely been there when Holly was younger. We worked recall in the backyard constantly because there would be a bird in the tree and she's, taken off to the corner of the yard, doesn't want to come in. So we totally practiced recall, not just come to me and get a treat, but like come to me in the doorway. So you're in the house, or come to me and let me, grab your collar or harness so that I, have you and we can go in together. So practicing all those different situations, whether you're on leash or off, recall is going to be high on our list.
Yeah. And it's safety. It's for safety. It's for every day. And then again, it's for fun and check-in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think leave it. So number 3 would be leave it, that we agreed on, right?
Yeah.
Is partially that is relevant to recall, because if they can't leave something,
that's true. It is,
to come to you if we're talking again outside in the bush. But for in the house, around the house every day, especially with us having multi-dog households, leave it is, I would say, one of the more important. Especially I have 2 guarders, right? My dogs will guard food and toys and other things. So leave it has been really important in our house. And I think even if you're just going for a walk around the city, I found chicken bones. I found diapers. I found garbage,
masks.
Yeah, half an old sandwich. Like there's lots of things that I have found, especially in the springtime.
Yeah,
the snow melts and all the stuff comes out of the snowbank. So leave it is 1,000 times better than, again, pulling your dog along on a walk and going, no, we're going to go this way, and just dragging them. Especially, sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes they're a big dog. You can't drag them.
Well, then the other thing is, owners' first instinct is to go and pull it out of their mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Then they're at risk of getting bit because the dog's like, no, thank you. Or my worst scenario, the dog swallows it.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually dogs start to learn, if you start going towards the dog when it has something, they just swallow it.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's over. And that's, again, super scary depending upon what they have.
Yes.
Will it go through? Will they need surgery? Are they going to get sick?
Is that tech coming out?
Yeah, for sure. Like, can make a list of different things dogs have eaten. And it's, can be quite bizarre. But, if you make the game more about letting it go instead of the game of stealing it and running with it,
Yeah.
Totally different ballgame.
And I think too, with Leave It, I know Kelsey's addressing this in her focus workshop. It's basically teaching the dog to disengage from something. So what is the option then? Engage with me. So I can leave it and then let's go do something.
Yeah.
So if we're, going to roll in something yucky in the bush, I can say, leave it and then maybe recall them, or leave it and this way and we turn and we go in another direction, or there's a way to sort of redirect them with that leave it as an interrupter.
Yeah.
The other important thing too is the way that we have taught leave it to our dogs is we're teaching them, if you leave that, we have something good for you. So they want to come to us, which I think is super important if you want it off leash, is that they're not doing it because they know you're going to get there faster than them and take it from them.
Yeah.
They're doing it because why would I want that when I could be?
The other tricky thing, though, I think it's the understanding why dogs take things. People, again, think that they're doing it out of spite.
Yes.
That they steal something just to get the cookie.
Yeah.
They don't really have or
dogs don't feel spite.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I always get asked in the guarding seminar is, what if they start stealing things to get a cookie? And I think, wouldn't that be better than the dog stealing things and swallowing them, or stealing them?
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
And if we look at
Sticks,
Sticks and her retrieve. Sticks just brings things to Kelsey all day.
Because it's natural.
Because it's fun, right? She's been training her to retrieve. So, I mean, isn't that better than stealing things?
And then, did an article in the newspaper about guarding, and your main preventative treatment is leaving it.
Yeah.
It's an emotion that they have. And for some dogs, where they've come from, if you don't guard what you've found to eat, you don't eat.
Yes.
So it comes into a bit of a lifestyle component too. So, instead of, we always seem to just want to discipline, take the other route.
Yeah.
And teach something that is more beneficial and will actually get success and get you there, instead of worrying about discipline.
Yes. And I think for leave it, like that's really important, because if we are not there to discipline them, they're going to do the thing. And again, going back to our last episode with embarrassing things, the poopsicles, right?
Yes.
The poop in the yard. If you're not outside watching your dog to go, hey, don't take that, whatever, they're just going to do it when you're not looking. So I think taking the approach that we do with leave it and training it through giving them rewards for doing something that we like them to do instead is it's beneficial. And going back to even our relationship building with our recall, right? They're more likely to want to engage with us. So there's that. And then also another one on our list, number 4, is our go to mat
or bed. Yeah.
Our go to mat, go to bed, which I would say I'm using right now with these 2.
Yeah.
I have my 2 dogs beside me, and they are each on a blanket and a dog bed. And again, multi-dog households.
Yeah.
It's so useful to have when you have more than one dog, because you can send them each to their own spot. So if they have a Kong, they have a bone, whatever, that's your spot. That's where you're going to go. And that's for them. So that's their little safe zone.
Safe zone for sure.
Right.
In the previous COVID episode that we did bring up the exercise, go to mat, and then I also brought it up in the paper. It's interesting because we teach it in classes, but then I put the article in the newspaper, and everybody was like, "Oh, maybe we should train that," and I'm like, yes, for sure. But it also creates independence. Like, it gives them a place to be, because dogs, as I joke a little bit, be sitting on my lap, but it's good for dogs to learn independence, that they can be in their own space with something and exist.
Yeah.
But it also gives them a place where they can feel, like you said, confident and safe. I personally, as well as you, move the dog beds around.
Yeah.
The other thing, what I'll do is, we're going to go to a trial, or you move the dog beds in this room. Normally they're there. So it's about
trial,
them.
Meaning agility trial.
Sorry. Yeah. So anytime, even when we go to camp, I take the dog beds, because it's something familiar.
Yeah.
It's something they're good at and they enjoy. And for a lot of dogs, when you have company, that can be stressed, but in a way, it's such a simple exercise.
It is
it creates value for a thing.
Yeah. And I think the other important piece of it too is back when I first taught it, I thought it was pretty cool that I could bring, like, if I didn't have their bed, for example, I could put my jacket on the floor and they would go to mat. So if I'm hanging out in the park with my friends and I just want to, sit on the ground for a bit, or if I'm at, my grandma's house and we're having dinner and she doesn't want the dogs jumping on her, I might.
Dinner's a huge one.
I might put something on the floor and that's where they can be. So there's lots of different ways that you can use it, not just inside your house.
Yeah. But I think it's also, instead of saying no, it's go do this.
Yeah. So, come away from the counter while I'm cooking and go to your mat instead. And then I'm going to throw some chicken to you, as opposed to you stealing some chicken.
Or putting your feet on the counter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to say, obviously I have mats all around my house. I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah.
Roaming around.
Yes.
I have a problem with dog mats. I keep buying them. But that way there's something that, they can go to in each room if they're not sure what to do. That's a great default behavior for your dog to go, hey, what about this? And just lay on the bed.
Yeah.
Right. So if they want something from you, instead of jumping on you to get it and go, do you want me to be on this mat? Like, this is a much better behavior. And I know Nuggie is really good at that. If she doesn't know what to do, she will go and find a mat. And that's her thing that she likes to do, to the point where I even have to hide her kennel from her sometimes.
Yes, the kennel.
The kennel has become an issue, because she just wants to be there because that means good things are happening. So I would say go to mat is one of my favorite ones, even though I think when it comes to teaching it in classes, sometimes we all give our stories and we say how we use it.
Yeah.
But I think that for clients, you have to think of it in your own household, in your own lifestyle, and go, how is this going to work for me? Because I think there is a way that is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, to anybody. And, that's why we try to introduce these exercises and relate them to every day. I want to say pet dog trainers, but because the majority of dogs we deal with are pet dogs, but it's creating confidence. It's coexisting happily. The dog has somewhere to go. Like, again, multi-dog households, 12-hour work days, feeding, you do need some type of flow and consistency of being able to cohabitate together. And I think that's where training, and especially these behaviors, make your life maybe a little simpler. I like to think for sure.
And then I think the big one that we saved for last year, because we've done an entire podcast episode on it, but leash walking. So not just walking your dog on leash, like we said in the previous episode. I know we went into it a lot, but training skills for leash walking is going to be our number 5 in our top 5, because if they don't have any skills for leash walking, we certainly can't expect them to walk on a loose leash. And again, we can go into all the reasons why. Back to, I want to say episode 2 was leash walking.
I think so.
And we can go into all that, but more importantly is, how do we use those things? And I know we just had a discussion about pattern games. So 1, 2, 3. And even among trainers, some games aren't as valuable for some of us as they are for others.
But it's about having options.
But we have options, right? So we have different things that we can teach them to do this leash walking. So one of the ones that I really like is a pattern game. It's called 1, 2, 3. We teach it in our classes. And it's basically just teaching the dog to predict what's coming next. So after 1 comes 2, after 2 comes 3, after 3 comes treat. So that's a good way to get them to move with you, to teach them. Number 1, you're giving them treats for being in what I like to call my bubble.
Yeah.
Because I just like to make sure that I'm giving them treats somewhere around my body. So it gets them giving treats in the bubble, which then creates reinforcement for that area.
Yes, right? Then they want to be there, then automatically there's less pulling.
Exactly. So it's a game that makes it fun. It's a game that gets you from point A to point B. And in a roundabout way, it also teaches the dog where you want them to be, because we are rewarding, and the placement of our reward matters.
Yeah.
I think there's other things that we can do as far as teaching leash walking skills. So we talk about, red light, green light. We talk about different games that we play in class, but there's lots of different games that we can play that make the leash walking come a little bit easier for the dog.
Right. And I like to think that I make the dog part of the game.
Yes.
Anyone can go out there and say, put a tool on them and hold the dog tight into heel, but are you teaching anything?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're just
teach the
you're physically keeping them there. And we say it a lot of times. And the reason why we encourage training classes to start, basically as soon as you can is because some of the bigger dogs, people can't pull them around or move them around. So why not teach good behaviors and teach them how to have a loose leash? Then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Like I said, for sure, we're going to have more leash walking episodes. I think it's something that we both enjoy. I joke a little bit and say, like, I'm a heel junkie a little bit, where I actually enjoy it, walking along with my dogs, different speeds, switching sides. Like, it's just something I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Creating a little bit of a flow. People will see me and my dogs and say, oh my gosh, look at how good they are. But, it's about work. I've put in the work. I've made it enjoyable.
Yes.
The other thing is I pride myself on trying to walk with that loose leash, because my dogs, I have taught them and had the patience and given them the ability to have the leash. But then again, asking them, to come in and check in with me and give me attention, because when I go for walks with my dog, it's our time together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that all goes back to that one episode. So
yeah.
And a little bit of a conclusion. We have our top 5 things.
Okay. One thing I want to just throw in there for a second is, with the leash walking, there's no dog, I don't think, any breed that has been bred to walk perfectly in heel. So no matter what tool or anything out there, you need to work on it. And you also need to take the time. You're not going to get it in a 7-week class.
Yes.
You're going to get it as they're maturing and getting older. But honestly, it is absolutely worth the training time.
I think that goes for most of the things. Like, none of this is going to come overnight. No. It's going to be a process. And I think that's why we need to make sure the process is fun for us and for our dogs. So our top 5, we have handling, recall, leave it, mat work, and loose leash walking skills.
And I'd say any age. They don't just have to be young.
Yeah.
You can come review, you can start, and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hanging out with you.
Yeah, and getting cookies. It's awesome. So that'll wrap up episode 6, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.